It's a gloomy day. There's no real rush, but we're gonna get this week fired up with a day in the shop. Oh boy, that starts off the day right. How you doing? Welcome to Making It Work. I'm Jimmy. We're gonna spend a day in the shop. Once I get it opened up, first you gotta take a look at the weather. Show you guys that Florida does get pretty crummy weather. Rainy and gloomy this morning, but the grass, the trees, flowers, they all love it. Buick Encore. We got a Jasper engine sitting out in the rain. Transmission jack in the rain. Green Monster out in the rain. Where's my truck? I had it on this lift when I left last week. Let's see if we can find my truck. Dude. Oh, here it is. Oh, it's around, so that's cool. So I had a short week last week, only worked a day and a half, but I came up with some videos for you guys. Individual repair videos. They seem to get a lot of interest, but they take a little time to catch on. The day in the shop videos do a little better, but the individual repair videos are just to give you guys some kind of a video each day. I apologize to people that watch my videos and don't miss them, because it'll be a little bit repetitive, but it'll just be that repair, whatever footage I have from start to finish, rather than spread out over several days. I try to take the repairs that took more than one day and roll them into one video for you, so it'll help somebody fix their car, give you something to look at other than watching Royalty Automotive or any of those channels that really seem to be blowing up fast. The Royalty Automotive channel started a year and a half ago. He's approaching 200,000 subscribers, so I'm doing something wrong. You guys let me know if the videos could be a little better by me being smarter or better looking, or what. Maybe I need to grow a ponytail. All right, let's stop horsing around, and then we'll fire up a day in the shop, get this thing going. We'll learn a thing or two. We'll have some fun. Stay tuned. You're gonna fire up 2025 with the Toyota Prius from a couple weeks ago. Intermediate shaft from the Toyota power plant. Look at that beauty. Double jointed. Everybody likes as many joints as they can get. Boom, boom. This extends and collapses. I found this tool out in the grass. I don't know whose it is, but should be a 12 millimeter top and bottom. I might have to take a panel out of the way to gain access under the steering column. We'll jump in there and take a look. All right, now let's see here. Yeah, I gotta take this little cover off on the base, this cover off here, and this looks like it might even snap together like a Lego. Oh, there's a screw. Just enough screws. You got to get some tools. It's kind of weird. It's got snaps and screws. I don't know how a lot of these things get decided out in the real world, separate from the shop. But we're gonna do what we gotta do. That's all there is to it. Okay, there's my 12 for that one. Let's get this Motor Trend floor mat out of the way, which is not attached to the car like the factory mats are. So when the manufacturer takes care of a problem, but we're gonna get this 12 out of here. You can see I can get them out with my quarter drive. They're not, you know, 150 foot-pounds. They're more like 15 or 20, 25 foot-pounds maybe. Make sure your steering wheel's locked so that when you disconnect this stuff, everything's nice and straight and lined up. Oh, this might have a bad rack. Yep, that's a shame. I don't think this is going to fix it. This is one of the problems with... This wasn't diagnosed by me. I just went in and checked it when they said they heard that noise. I looked at it real quick and I could feel this wiggling. But that's not going to be the problem. It's the rack and pinion. So everyone's going to be a little sad coming up here shortly when I tell them 370,000 mile cars, this is the kind of thing you have to deal with. I'll show you. So I thought all that play, when this was all together, I thought that play was in these U-joints. But they actually feel good. So let me let them know up front, this one came off the rails. For my next comeback, 2005 Sebring, I put the starter and the fuse in it 2 weeks ago. She said it cranks and doesn't start, so she had it towed in. I'm like, well, it cranks and doesn't start? I've started a few times, fair warning. I'm not sure what's going on with it, but I'm gonna mess with it, try to get it to act up. It does have bad strut mounts. I don't remember if I put that in the estimate last time or not, but this is the lady, if you don't remember this car, 62,000 original miles on a 2005. This car's 20 years old. Super clean. It's like about a 7, maybe an 8 on the low rating. A little vacuum work, man. This car is really nice. Low miles. It had a blown fuse, real common. The solenoids shorten these things and blow the starter fuse, which also sends power to the ASD relay, so the dash doesn't light up, communication doesn't work. Pretty scary, but all it ends up being is that 20 amp fuse. I think it's fuse 8. You replace that and it'll start, and sometimes it'll start for a year after that. Sometimes the second time you start, it'll blow again. So we put a starter in it to fix that. Very nice older lady. Strange though, she says it cranks and doesn't start, but I can't get it to do it. So we're gonna play with it a little while and see if something shows up. You guys remember this one? Did some front end work on it. There's a little pulsation, high-speed braking. So we're gonna do front brakes and rotors. Even though the pads are good and all, he doesn't want that little pulsation it's got. You got to go like 60, hit the brakes, you'll feel the pedal. So that's what we're doing. My little gun wouldn't loosen these nuts, so I had to get Big Bertha. She's a big girl, but man, she can cook. Got my special Audi studs. A guy with the name Audi in his handle was sad that I was criticizing German cars. It's pretty funny. He's got the name Audi in his handle. I know he likes German cars. Everyone's got their preferences, and for the most part, I'm just busting chops. For the most part. Man, there is some humidity today. And dirt. Where are we at? We got specialty Audi sockets. There they are. Let's see which one of these fits it. Somebody was mentioning blow molded cases too. I do want to get rid of my blow molded cases. The problem is, like this one, I can get rid of my blow molded cases pretty easy. Just put that on a rack. The problem is, something like this, you're not going to get rid of your blow molded case. I mean, I guess you could. You could put all these in socket holders that are small for quarter drive stuff, I guess. And these are going to be in 1/2-inch ones or something like that. Something like this, though, it just seems to me keeping the blow molded case is better. And then I got my 7-piece flip socket set. That could definitely come out of there if I wanted. It's a work in progress. We'll play with it some more. Oh, my Vim Torx. I got one. I needed really big ones. I think I bought them and never needed them since. Let's see what one of these fits on this here Audi. I'm going to take the calipers off the way it's designed from the factory to remove them. Instead of taking this big bolt out here, where is it? Down here. Should be able to unbolt the caliper from here because there's no fluid passing through there. So I think these 2 bolts are all that holds the caliper on. Das ist gut, ja. You will like it? Yes. Probably should have done that before I unbolted it. Let me get a hook in my hand. There's no place to put it.
It's pretty funny that you got the second most hours last week.
I had so many cars that didn't get picked up the week before.
It's just funny how it looks. Yeah, man.
Like, what happened?
What happened?
Like, Jimmy's awesome. He wasn't even here and he had a good week. It's a badass 1.5 days, man.
I'm telling you.
All thanks to Jose. I like that this brush has this little chisel tip to it.
It actually works quite well. This is all that was holding that rotor on.
All right, there's no slides on these. This is a 6-piston caliper, and the pistons are all floating, and they do their thing without the caliper sliding back and forth. It's actually a very good design. Race cars and high-performance Audis apparently have this kind of setup. The only problem is it has a brake pad wear sensor that doesn't fit out of there, and the pads might come with hardware anyway. Pop this clip out of here. It should come in towards the pad, I believe. There's a little foot right here. Uh-oh. That went off the rails quick, almost set the internet on fire. Let me get this hung back up. We can focus a little better. I need 2 hands, that's what it is. I really thought it was gonna pop right out of there, but it's Audi stuff. There it is. This little foot is what really holds it, along with some help from these shoulders, but it might not come with this, I'm not sure. I'll put them in a safe place. All I've got to do is replace these. I'll see what the pads come with. If it doesn't come with them, well, this doesn't even bottom out against anything, so it can't rust behind it. That's cool. See, they do some stuff that makes sense. I'm not going to start cleaning these yet. I'm going to see what the pads come with, and then if we have to reuse these, we'll remove them, clean them up, put them back in. If we're going to get new ones, man, there's not even hardly anything to do. They don't rest on anything. We'll pop those in. Well, I'm not sure if you can use Napa rotors and CarQuest pads, but it does come with hardware. It comes with a sensor. Oh, life is good. Life is good. Let's make sure they're right. Oh yeah, they look right. Cool. Well, that's a shame. The hardware that came with the pads is wrong. The pads are right. The rotors are wrong. They're like that much too small. So let's see if we can sort that out. Some of you might have seen last week's video on this car. Let me get away from the music a second so we don't get the copyright hit. 2018 Chevrolet Malibu. All right. 2018 Chevy Malibu, 31,000 miles. It's out of warranty though. The which you would think emissions might cover it, but apparently they checked and the dealership said they don't warranty it. It's out of warranty. I don't know if it was time or what. In any event, we're going to put a PCM in it. If you saw last week's video, this car has a problem where the computer constantly grounds the purge valve. The driver and the computer is basically saying, okay, on, even if we shut the key off, there's a ground on that circuit. So if you watched last week's video, I tested the circuit. The purge valve is normally closed, and the computer grounds it to open the solenoid, and it actually duty cycles it, so it's not like open and then closed. It opens for a certain amount of time and closes for a certain amount of time. When that ground stays on, that solenoid's open, and it'll run weird and surge and stall sometimes and do all kinds of... Plus it puts the check engine light on because it says, why is the purge valve open? Even though it doesn't realize it's causing the problem. So we're going to put this ECM in, and then we have a third-party programming device that we've used in other videos. Not very often though. We just don't do a lot of it. It's unfortunate. It's a little expensive, but you know, towing the car to the dealer after you repair it to have them program it would end up costing the same anyway. if we buy the subscription to do it, you'd probably have to charge that to make it worthwhile, because the subscriptions are getting to where they're $5,000–6,000 per manufacturer to program them. So these third-party systems, we pay a monthly fee, which is pretty small, and then you pay each time you program something on top of that, and you use their device. They actually supply the tool that does the third-party programming. You plug it into the wall, hook up a clean charger that doesn't put any noise into the electrical circuits. You plug it into the OBD2, you call them up, you tell them it's hooked up, and then sometimes they'll have you do little things to help them with the process. Sometimes they just say, all right, we'll call you when we're done. And you walk away and you can do other things. Next thing you know, the phone rings. It should be all set. You get in it and verify your check engine light's out and your problem's fixed. And everybody's happy if it is. And if you watched last week's video, I put my meter in at the power and ground of the solenoid and disconnected the plug from the solenoid, and I still had power and ground. And then I unplugged the connector X1 from the ECM, boop, and the ground went away. I plug it back in, ground it, unplug it, ground went away. So the PCM's internally shorted to ground on that one circuit. No other problems with it either. Kind of strange. I'd assume that the more complicated these cars get, the more likely you'll see that kind of thing. But in any event, enough flapping. I could put the windows down just in case this thing does lock itself. You guys know I like to have the window down, but they're playing a lot of music lately, so I got to be careful with that. The Beatles will want me to give them $30,000 if the song plays in my video, and that's about 40 years worth of YouTube revenue. So let's go into the hood, get this ECM plugged in, hook up that machine. We'll show you that process. And those of you who watched last week's video, you know that I talked about how nice this car smells. It still does smell wonderful. He's got like a mix of 3 different air fresheners in here. It's come up with a great combo. Love rating 8. There's a bolt missing there. I didn't take that out. Maybe someone put a battery in and left that out. In any event, this hose comes out, that bolt comes out, and then these catches release it. Three electrical connectors, slides right out like a credit card. You gotta pull this little red catch out, then you gotta push this detent. You should be able to flip the lever up. It's not man enough to get it done. There it is. No pocket screwdriver help. Love that tool. Made a video about it. There is something else is holding it. I thought it was gonna slip right out. Silly me. I gotta get a little upholstery tool, trim stick. There's a little tab sticking off the PCM that makes the harness trap it. That's all it is. Now, if I can get the harness to let it back down, it'll be good. I don't like that aluminum corner. Press it on the harness a little bit, but that's how it is from the factory. Each one of these has its own lever. Feed it on as you work the lever till it clicks. Lock it. There it is. Now I should be able to get the programmer deal hooked up and make a phone call. All right, real quick, I'm going to put my scanner on it just to see what kind of codes we get from plugging a new module in without doing any programming. And I'm assuming it's going to have missing data and codes for not programmed. Then I'm going to roll the RABs out here and we'll get that cooking. Change engine oil soon. 36,549. That's kind of weird. Ice possible. Drive with care. Yeah, it's mad. I left the old ECM in the box in case sometimes you're supposed to have it plugged in. It'll upload information. Then you put the new one in and download information. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Most GMs you don't have to do that, but this is an 18 and I haven't done a lot of programming on the very new ones. So like a lot of things that we do here, because we work on so many different vehicles, you're basically learning from scratch on almost every car you work on. But my scan tool is not going to give up. I'm trying to talk to it, and the check engine light's blinking. It's mad. Does not crank at all. Of course, the key hasn't been learned or any of that. So we'll take our wrap module, that's what it's called here, remote assistance programming from Drew Technologies. So we're going to get this all plugged in, a couple of connectors, OBD2 and electrical. We got to put a charger on it too, and I'm going to make my scanner give up whether it wants to or not. I am going to keep my components in here so I can do my own diagnosis afterwards. Sometimes there'll be codes to clear that kind of thing. I'm going to turn this off for now, and we'll get the smart charger on there, get that all going too, so the battery's not going to die during the process. And that's right, it's been a little while since I used the cables on this instead of getting our smart charger out. We have both, so let's get these cables hooked up. The machine comes with a clean charger built into it, so it'll maintain the battery while you work. Because sometimes this process on like some BMWs, it could take several hours. GM usually 10-15 minutes, but even less sometimes. These are nice jumper cables, by the way. They got a ratcheting mechanism that locks it in place, so you gotta go kind of tight so that it won't pull off the ground and all. And this is how you release them, this little button. Those are ready to go, power's on. I just got to make some phone calls. We'll get this thing fired up. It's not much to really show you. I'll be on the phone, won't be able to hold the camera and stuff, but I do need to shut off my scan tool. So it's not dead when we're ready to put it back on. And then we'll call them and find out exactly what they want me to do to set this car up. Some GMs, you pull a BCM fuse and that kind of thing so the BCM doesn't get messed with during programming. Some of the newer ones, you don't have to do any of that stuff. The last time I worked for Chevrolet was in 2007. And a lot of cars, you pulled the BCM fuse and that was all you really had to do. You'd have to look up some options codes on the tag. I think it's in the trunk on some, the glove box on some. And it'll tell you the options, the transmission, all those kinds of things, the kind of HVAC it has, stop, start, things like that. They might be able to look that all up through the wrap place, but we'll see. And I'll tell you how it all goes as we're coming to a close on it, finishing it up. I've got this side together. I was gonna film putting it together on the other side, but then I remembered, well, there's only a sensor on one side. The side with the wire, that actually when that shorts, it puts on the telltale light saying you need brakes. Just snaps into the brake pads here. Better term would be clips into the brake pad. And the brake leader cap helps you hold this on. And this plugs in. Put this in. And you can turn it to lock it in place. And plug in your connector. There's a curved and a flat side. Make sure it doesn't pull back off. So this brake is done on this side. We're gonna go to the other side and show you how that goes together. Pretty easy, really. I just cleaned everything up, lubricated the contacts like I normally do, and the pistons, just a tiny bit of grease, and you kind of push them in, and you got to flex these up to get the pads back in their notches. Since the hardware is wrong, we just cleaned it up and put it back together. I'll show you on the other side. That's interesting. I came over here to look, and it does have a sensor on both sides. The pads only came with one sensor. The problem is you can reuse them if they haven't been ground down from the brakes going bad, as long as you can get out of the pad without breaking the contact in there. That little plastic piece has a little clip spring around the outside, and they break half the time. So we'll see if we can get it apart without it breaking. If you don't have these socket sets, these are all specialty Audi, Volkswagen sockets. They decided they needed new design bolts for one reason or another. I use a 1/2-inch ratchet to break them loose because they're also very shallow, and I used the impact on the other side and it wanted to bounce off. So we'll use our 1/2-inch ratchet to break that loose. Gear wrench, 120 XP. Probably the best bang for the buck in ratchets right now. As long as you can keep it straight. Yeah. I use the impact the rest of the way. Saving the digits, that's all. Now this is ready to come out, but I want to try to get this off of here. If I get a pair of needle nose pliers and gently rock it, usually it'll come out. It basically goes in, these are directional pads too, so you got 2 brake pads. You want them both facing this way. It sits down in this little notch here, and you can usually rock them out real carefully and get them out. That little clip, you gotta make sure that doesn't fall off, because then it won't stay in the pad. I wish the pads would have came with both of them, but most of these cars I find one front wheel, one rear wheel has a sensor, but this is high performance Audi stuff. One of the tools I have, Snap-on, nothing but the best. I don't have a pad spreader for these kind of brakes. I don't do them that often, so I tend to use this, especially if the pads are being replaced. And I'll just squeeze them like this and wait, and the pads will settle back. And if I have to, I can put one of the new brake pads in as a spacer to push them further away if the pads are more worn. These pads aren't that bad. We're only doing them because of the really warped rotor over here. We didn't want to put a new rotor with those pads. So these new ones are only a little bit thicker, but they are about 30% thicker. So I put off needing brakes. There's an assortment of different brushes. I'm gonna have to get something small to get into here. And like a battery brush, I'll probably use something like that. See what I can find. I'm just gonna clean them up. A little bit of orange magic grease, good to go. It doesn't take much. You can see I'm not globbing it in there. A couple little spots here I might have globbed it, but I just don't want to put it together dry. Now these little flats rub on these springs. It sits in the cradle with a silver spoon and everything, and should be able to, not too bad. I'll put the sensor in after it's bolted back on, like I did on the other side. I don't know if I filmed it over there or not. Just need a little bit of persuasion. There it is. This brake hose is so short, my orange tool won't reach the spring without flexing it the other way. We don't want to put any stress on if we can avoid it. Generally, it's not as big a deal as people say, but these calipers are giant, but they're not heavy. The big thing is, if you let that caliper go and it shocks the hose, that's when it'll really do damage. A lightweight caliper, if you put it here and have it supported by the hose, it's not really hurting anything. It does set the internet ablaze though. So if you're filming it, be extra careful. These things are gorgeous. I almost want to buy some just to display on the wall. They've also, on those original ones, this is about 1/3 of the size of that, which I guess they're way more fragile than I would ever think. I've never seen a brake rotor that got damaged in an accident when the wheel wasn't absolutely destroyed. That one just had a nick in the bead and a bunch of scratches, so the customer wanted to replace it for appearance mostly. I feel bad. I wish I would have drove it 60 miles an hour or so, whatever it was taking to feel it, but I know one thing, it's going to be good to go. That is beautiful. The whole thing is anodized, so shouldn't have rust problems like we did on the factory parts. Beefier. Let's get it on there. We don't want that. We don't want to give them the bungee cord with it, with the job. I gotta say, one of the easiest brake calipers to get on and off if you have the special socket. So Audi took something that's normally a little more complicated and Jimmy would rag on it, and it made it easier. But then they took away the normal bolt head so Jimmy could complain about it or point it out, however you want to look at it. Some people say it's complaining. I just see it as stating the obvious. In any event, tighten those up. Get that sensor in here. Over here so it wouldn't take any damage. It's a pretty fragile plastic, like a lot of plastic nowadays. It won't go in the wrong way because the pad's too far out against the caliper right now. Get this wire harness all the way down that little notch, especially made in the caliper for it. That's one of the things that you know, although I'll point out the downfalls and the things that make it more difficult, some of the stuff they do is actually very nice and makes the process a little easier. So it's I guess it's a balance kind of thing, yin and yang. I do want to pop these bleeders loose, make sure there's no air trapped in here. Nice clean fluid. There are 2 bleeders. Clean that off. If I got any traces of air out of there, I'd let it go quite a bit longer just to make sure. I want to have as good a pedal as we can get. Nothing will tell you how good the pedal is going to be like pushing on the brakes. Once I get these wheels on, try to get the holes in the wheel close to that so it's not too much work. These are pretty heavy, like a truck tire. Fast and furious, brother man. That's what I'm saying. Oh, come on, man. This thing does eat some batteries, I'll tell you that much. Alright, new batteries. Cap's reverse thread, by the way. This is the Icon ratchet, torque wrench, I should say. Has the angles and all that cool stuff. I think it was like 330 bucks. 90 foot-pounds, according to our chart on the wall. I'll show you that. I don't think I've showed you guys that before, but these wheel bolts were at about 300 foot-pounds. That's why I need to get my big torque wrench to get them off. The wheel I messed with on the other side a couple weeks ago was right. This one here I didn't, was way too tight. This is our torque chart. You see Audi AS, A3 and S3, e-tron GT, all other models, 98 to 23, and all models 78 to 97, 90, 80. So all of this, like Toyota is one of the ones that's the lowest, by the way. Some of these Toyotas, 76. 76. The highest is the Tundra at 97. So when guys are going pop, 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 pop with their impact gun, those numbers are out the water. And that's how you warp rotors and hubs, and your studs can even break. Under extreme circumstances, you over tighten these, everything expands, starts heating up. You can actually have wheel studs break going down the road and lose a wheel because you tighten them too much. It's pretty important. All right, caps are on the wheels. Everything's torqued good. Just got to road test it and seat the pads, make sure the pulsation problems is gone. I'm going to take it on a nice rip, try to get to 60 or so, and after I do my break-in stops, 6 to 10 moderate stops, I'll do a high-speed run and see how it goes. What is that ringing? Oh, door's open. Okay, let's go for a drive. Come back, we'll see what's next. Jose's working on with the wrap company on the programming. I got it all set up for him. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be on and off of that one and finding something else to do. 2017 Buick Encore. We've been working on this on and off for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. Got oil leaks. We checked for back pressure, and we checked for the manifold valve, which I can see something in there, but there's a lot of crud and grime built up around it. But it turns out that's not the problem. It's the timing cover gasket, not the front crank seal. When that manifold's causing a problem, they leak oil out of the crank seal or the rear main because crankcase pressure goes up and blows those seals out first. Timing cover gasket leak is not caused by that. It takes some wear and tear and the seal just to deteriorate to leak. So that's what we're going to do on this one. It's 2017 with 108,000 miles, I believe. Let's check. Something like that. For those who might not remember this car or seen that video in earlier time, 118,191. Pretty clean car. Whoa, whoa, it got loud. It changes volume. That's kind of weird. It's like a 7, maybe even an 8 on the love rating. I don't know. What do you guys think? To do the timing cover gasket on this, you have to take the timing chain off because the gasket goes underneath the timing chain for water passages and stuff as well. I knew I had to take the timing cover off. I didn't know that you had to take the chain off to do it. I don't have the special tools, but we'll see if we can come up with something. Worst case scenario, I'll have to order the special tools and finish at the end of the week. But we're gonna try. Take this air box out of the way, the ducting. We'll put a rag in the throttle body so we don't have to worry about that. I think to get this timing cover off, you gotta take the compressor, the alternator, the valve cover, the oil pan, and then you can get the tools in to lock the cams and the crank in place, take the timing chain cover and the timing chain off. And then the gasket's like right there after that. Uh-oh. I thought that was going to come off of there a little easier. I guess not. Let's try this one. What we'll do, snug this clamp up. I want to try to remember that I loosened it. Come up with something like this here. Never put the rag all the way in. I always leave some of it hanging out, so you know, you get in a rush, things can happen. So it's actually got torque sockets on the valve cover, but we're not at that point yet anyway. You get the coil out of here, but I think even before that I will lift it up and get the coolant and the oil drained out of it. We got the battery disconnected so we can mess around with anything we want. Now I can see in there a little better. Gotta drop this exhaust at some point, might as well do it now. Bolt it over here. Electrical connector for the O2. Get some oil out of there. Looks like the oil pan is held in with Torx just like the valve cover, but I'm not quite gonna pull that all off yet. I'm gonna get these accessories out of the way. It's a cute little compressor. We'll get the belt off of there. It says alternator 2 because I think the alternator bolts go through the timing cover to the block, it looks like. So what I probably can do once the belt's off, unbolt the alternator, just kind of hang it off to the side, I think. We'll see. I'll have to unbolt the compressor. I could probably leave the lines attached and I'd have to evacuate it. But the compressor bolts to the timing cover here, just like the mount and all, which I know I have to take out. I'll get the drain plug back in and tighten it all up so that's all done when I put it back together. I'm going to use snap-on breaker bar just because it's the only brand of breaker bar I have. I think it'll fit, and the real reason for choosing this is, unlike any ratchet, it flexes right at the tip of the tool, so I can clear the subframe and stuff down here. Now this hinges at the top, so the bottom swings in from that bolt above it. Let's see where you guys can hang out in a minute. We'll have to flip that in editing. And there's not a lot of room to get this bolt on and off. If you had to do this for maintenance, that would not be fun. Probably 0.4 or something like that, I'm guessing, but the way things have been looking lately with labor, but the labor guides are getting out of control. New gasket. Didn't have one on it before, but it didn't look like a source of a leak. Kind of weird there's no gasket. I don't see where it might have dropped in here. You see it? I'm gonna tighten that up before I carry on, but 3 13s in the compressor, 1 and then 2 in the front. It's a tiny little thing. Where is the proper tool for the job? I'm going to use a ratchet, short 13. This isn't short enough to clear everything. I can go to quarter drive with a long quarter drive ratchet probably. Compressor bolts 18, 20 foot. Now the reason you take that compressor off is so you can take this bracket off, because the bracket is what's actually bolted to the timing cover. But the bolts for the bracket are under the compressor. Alright, this has a little shoulder here that is keyed into that, so we got to pop that out of the way to get to the alternator bolts. I think I can leave this attached to this bracket when I take it out, but we'll see. I'm going to take the 2 alternator bolts out, try to get that out of my way a little bit. Then we'll be lowering it down to try to get the upper mount and bracket off the timing cover. Got it. Well, it turns out my imagination was running wild assuming this was bolted to this, but I think not. See that? It's bolted directly to the timing cover. I think that'll stay there. Little by little, we're getting to the part we need to take off. This hole lines up here somewhere. I believe there's you could put a punch through there and line up this hole. And there's also a stopper you can put in. Before I let this down to start taking that upper mount off of there, I almost forgot to drain the coolant. We don't want to make a mess. I'm going to try to do this. I'm not going to try nothing. I'm going to take this mount out from underneath because it looks like it's easier to get to these bolts down here. I took the nuts off the mount up there while I was loosening the radiator cap so it would drain. So I think if I take these out from here, I'll be able to let this down in a controlled deal, see how far it'll come down. I think I'll just touch the axle and it'll hold it. Matter of fact, I don't want it to damage the boot at all. It won't hurt anything. You're only just taking the weight of the nose of the motor. The transmission mounts and all are still in there. So this is just going to kind of support it a little so it doesn't come all the way down the bottom. That's all. 15. Probably could even use a quarter drive with a 15 on it. Try not to get my ratchet trapped in there. I want it back. That's about it. Note to self when I'm going back together, have it about 2 inches lower. We're going to fix all the music in the background and editing. Perfect. Well, we use a block of wood. You never want to put this pole jack on that pan directly. Even if you think you're in a safe spot, one of these feet is going to do some damage. I thought it was only a turn left, but I guess not. There it is. Huh. Isn't that interesting? There it is. I knew it's supposed to fit out of there somehow. I used to prefer GM over a lot of brands just because they seem the easiest to work on. Even if you did have to work on them a little more, they're pretty easy to do. Now, those days are gone. Little snaps go in here to hold this harness on. This one snaps onto here, and this one snaps on top. So there's 3 different assemblies in there you got to get out. I got this off there so it doesn't break or anything. And these just kind of trap everything like a clamp. So we'll save this in a good spot. With that bracket covering the water pump pulley, there's no way to get to the bolts while the belt's on it. That would really help you loosen those bolts, but I might be able to hold it by hand. Let's see here if we can avoid a copyright strike and get this done at the same time. You're just gonna have vice grips for hands, that's all. I didn't think it was gonna work, to tell you the truth. I'm figuring some of those water pump bolts go through the timing cover. Let's go ahead and get this in there and get that motor turned. Line up those cams. It's the best way to know if you're at top dead center. Camshafts. Is it the right size socket I got? The crank is an E18. It's down in here somewhere. There it is. Clockwise.
Let's see what his cams are in the back.
Those slots will be flat with the top of the cylinder head in the back. Once we're in good shape, you guys yell at me when I hit it. And the lobes on 4 are facing each other, and on 1 they're facing away. It gives you some idea where you're at. That's close enough to get a straight edge and see where we're at. Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not looking to file anything. Keep in mind, I'm not scraping this back and forth trying to get silly. But I can put some small bolts in here and probably avoid buying a tool. The old OTC Ford kit. It's got a bar, and that bar happens to fit better than the file actually does, and I can fit a bolt in there. I couldn't fit a bolt in there with my file, which I didn't really care for it anyway. It would have worked. Now I can put something in there to keep it. It's in there pretty tight actually. It's not going anywhere. I want something in there just in case. I got this aluminum spacer in there. I got it in the threads until it hits the thread lock. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't even have to be there like I said earlier. It's just something as a little extra precaution, because when you do hack stuff, you gotta have hack precautions. Honestly, this is a really simple motor, so I'm not as concerned as I probably should be. If it was like a Ford with a friction fit balancer and all, it'd be way more critical. I think we're going to be fine. That's what I'm trying to say. So I got that holding the cams. Obviously this thing ran good, had no timing codes. Everything should be in good shape. I can start pulling the oil pan off, and the last will be the timing cover. All right, I've got the retainer off the hose, and I slid the hose back just enough. You can take these water pump bolts out, and I should be able to fit it out of there. One less thing in the way. I'm going to take these cam solenoids off too. We can get some more stuff. One of those is for the timing cover, one of those is for the water pump. We'll see which is which. Got some secret hidden bolts in there I'm seeing. Come on, you turkey. Let's see here. This hose, someone else has worked on this. That's why some of the bolts were tight, some of the bolts, not so much. This hose is also very happy where it's at. There you go. That's right, I forgot this has like the multi-hose dealio. That's because the thermostat housing's on there. You could unbolt the thermostat housing and pull a pump off it, but it seems easier to me to disconnect the hoses and work on that on a workbench. I got my little cable clamp tool on there. Get that clamp relaxed. There is not a lot of room in this little four-cylinder car. Hoping you're not getting to all my ear. All up in my ear hole. Got it. Someone had a tie wrap on that connector too. I'm guessing it has, how do you say it? Poop to bed? Cam solenoids, when they're working correctly, this pin floats. Alright, 15s. Uh-oh. Nope. Got to use the old pickle juicers for that one because of the exhaust. It's feeling pretty studly right there. These bolts I'll probably put on the lift arm over here. I think after those two 15s, there's a shield here for the axle. I'll have to loosen that top bolt to it. Uh-oh. How'd that get reversed? Did you guys move that when I put it down? Turkeys? That one's a little tighter than the bottom one was. Wow. Next one. Sometimes you gotta go through 5 or 6 tools to find one that'll do it. You wouldn't want to just step right up to the heavy stuff right off the bat. Not only is the entertainment value reduced, watch your face in case something lets go. The entertainment value is reduced and it saves you so much time. It's not something you want to automatically do. Now the rest of these pan bolts I believe are E10s. It is a pretty big drain pan, so you know it would land in it. It's like an open invitation. I gotta get the one bolt under the exhaust, and I think that oil pan will be ready to come down. Alright, I don't show this to just anybody, just you, because I like you. This is an 8mm swivel. Just between us, don't go telling everybody on the internet. It's an 8mm. And it torques. It works in a pinch. Keep in mind, there are 2 bolts hidden up there as well before you start prying. I'm gonna just use my 8mm swivel since I had it out.
I gotta put the shield and stuff. He's gonna take it?
Let's see here. That was either the sound of success or the sound of tragedy. Some stuff is about to happen. I think that one is to drain coolant out so I can pull the cover off the rest of the way. I was hoping to get this cover off today, but not thinking it's gonna happen. Alright, we're gonna let that thing drip till tomorrow and pull that cover off in the morning. Half a day tomorrow. And then of course New Year's Day will be closed, but for you guys, it's gonna be the 7th. We're gonna go ahead and button that thing up. I don't think I'll get it done tomorrow either. It's a lot of work. I was hoping to get the timing cover off, but that's only really about 10 or 15 minutes more worth of work. I just don't feel like it today. I'm tired. All that rest and relaxation makes you want to rest more. We'll get back on it tomorrow. Do me a favor, share the video around if you know somebody who might be interested in some auto repair videos with a real mechanic spending a day at work. Torque the like button before you head out if you would. I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget to check out stickermule.com. We have a store for Jimmy Making It Work now. It's stickermule.com/JMIW. There's a link in the description below every video, so you get t-shirts and stickers. The only thing I have to sort out right now is a minimum of 10 stickers. So they won't do just one because it's print on demand. They make them when you order them. In any event, check it out. T-shirts for sure. I've got like 4 or 5 different designs in there now. Some I think you'll think will be pretty cool. More than anything though, I hope I see you in the next video because you're awesome.